You're listening
You're listening
to another episode
of the FreshTakes
podcast.
What is up, everybody? You're listening to another episode of the FreshTakes podcast. I am your favorite host and your only host for today. Unfortunately, Tank is sick and Pat is actually moving in with his girlfriend, so both of them could not make it. So it's just me today. We're going to do a quick episode. I'm going to run down the games. I'm going to do my have a day, and we're going to have a day. So, all right, starting off week 7, we had the Raiders taking on the Bears. The Bears had Tyson Bagent in for his first career start, undrafted rookie out of some West Virginia college. I think he was a D2 quarterback. Justin Fields was down. Bears come out on top 30-12. Donta Foreman had himself a career day. He is on his 7th team, I'm pretty sure. So it was nice to see Donta Foreman actually, get the ball and actually take care of some things. Devontae Adams, on the other hand, he saying that he wanted the ball a lot more, and he only had 7 catches for 57 yards. The rookie cornerback was all over Devontae Adams that entire game. So that's where we have it. We have the Bears out on top of the Raiders. I will say before we go on to this, our prediction sheet, Tank never posted it, but yeah, we were kind of bad this week. I think they got 6 right, and I only got 5 because I picked Dolphins, they lost. We all picked the 49ers, they lost. I think after the 1 o'clock games, we all only had like 2 right. So, yeah, we'll go on to one that they all got right, but I didn't. Browns beating the Colts 39-38, and what may seem like a barn burner, but was definitely heavily favored on the ref side. There was a couple plays at the end of the game where the refs kind of leaned a lot towards helping Cleveland. There was a pass interference call that everybody and their grandmother knows was not a pass interference call. That ball was not reachable, and there was no way that there should have been a penalty flag. But the Browns ended up getting a penalty flag, and on 4th and goal, they ran Kareem Hunt into the end zone to beat the Colts. The Colts were wearing a nice, throwback jersey, a midnight blue jersey, or whatever they want to say that they were called. In that game, Myles Garrett came out. He had probably one of his best games ever. I'll go into his stats later for my segment. But the Colts, I don't know, man. Gardner Minshew, yes, Gardner looked good that game, but he also looked terrible. He was 15 for 23, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, but, he also had 3 fumbles that game. So, I said it before, if he can get to Michael Pittman, it's a good thing. But Pittman didn't do anything until the 4th quarter in this game, which last week we said about how Pittman didn't do anything until the second half of that game, and they came back, but they lost that game too. So I think if Gardner can get to Pittman, they're in good shape. But if not, then the Colts are kind of at a problem. There was one drive where I think 10 out of the 11 plays, the ball was to Jonathan Taylor, whether he ran it or were screen passes to him. It was kind of ridiculous. But, I guess if you miss the first 4 games and you just got a big contract, you want to give him his money's worth. Speaking of money's worth, we're going to jump to the Ravens beating the Lions 38-6. Lamar is playing and showing that he is worth all the money that he was asking for. I know that there's some other hosts of shows that said that Lamar was not worth his money, and then 2 weeks later decided to turn their saying and say that they never said that and that he's worth his money. But I think Lamar's balling out. I know last week I said that I don't know if he's where he was or not, but in that game, Lamar was balling out against the Lions, who were 5-1, and were, if you recall on Pat's power rankings, we're number 1, and on a lot of people's power rankings, we're number 1. The Lions look terrible. They didn't score until the final quarter, which I think the Ravens just kind of gave them the score. No David Montgomery. So they had Jahmyr Gibbs in, who didn't do anything until the very end of the game as well. I played Pat in fantasy last week, and he had Jahmyr Gibbs, and he was doing nothing until the end, but I ended up coming out on top. Sorry, Pat. I had to throw that in there. Let's go to another person who was on Pat's team who wasn't doing nothing until the end. Bills lose to the Patriots 29-25. I think this is the first time since like 2018 that the Bills have lost to the Patriots. I don't know, man. Them Bills aren't looking too hot out there this year. They almost lost to the Giants. They should have lost to the Giants last week, if we're being honest. There's no reason why, we didn't run Saquon. There was no penalty called or nothing. But the final play of the game, instead of trying to chuck a ball deep and hoping for a miracle, Josh Allen decides to run and just fumbles the ball. Allen did not look good until the fourth quarter. That was another one where not looking good until the fourth quarter. I know Diggs wasn't really doing anything until the fourth quarter. He did get that one touchdown, which I don't understand how the Patriots with two guys didn't get him down before he got into the end zone. But, Josh Allen, one fumble, two touchdowns, one interception, 265 yards, threw the ball 41 times. I mean, James Cook, 13 carries for 56 yards, but James Cook also had 3 catches for 46 yards and a touchdown. I think they need to use James Cook more. They're not really putting him to his potential. Yeah, his run's a little iffy, and he kind of gets stuffed a lot on the runs, but I think you guys need to be using James Cook more. I will say, on the other hand, Mac Jones, 25 for 30, 272 yards and 2 touchdowns. This was the only game of the season that Mac Jones has looked good. Which, he's been on blast the last couple weeks about being bad and looking bad, and then he comes out and does something like that. If he can do it again, this is the exact same way that I felt about with, what's his name that we were talking about the other day? Zach Wilson. This is exactly how I feel about the Zach Wilson thing. You had one good game. If you can keep doing that, then I'll think that you're turning stuff around and being a better quarterback. But, I mean, next week the Dolphins and the Patriots play. If Mac can do this again against another divisional team, then I'll start believing that Mac Jones is turning things around and can be a better quarterback. But I hope not, because in a couple weeks they have the Giants. So I hope that Mac Jones still kind of stumbles and doesn't do as good. Speaking of the Giants beat the Commanders 14-7. I told you guys last week, I felt like the Giants were on a comeback, now that they face all the big teams and the hard teams to face. I feel like that, there's something coming back. We finally got our first touchdown in the first half on offense. Tyrod's out there balling. We're finally using Darren Waller more. Saquon looks healthy and he's doing good, although he had a ankle injury close to the end of the game. But I mean, Tyrod, 18 for 29, 279 yards and 2 touchdowns. Yeah, he got sacked 4 times, and we're still dealing with the sacks. But on the other hand, the Giants had 6 sacks. Kayvon Thibodeau is already at 5.5 sacks of the season. And, everybody was saying about how Kayvon wasn't doing anything the first 1, 2, 3 weeks. Even I was one of them people. But he's definitely turned it around. He's been looking good. I will say, though, Xavier McKinney is still a problem on that defense. There was one play where he could have easily ripped the ball out of one of the guy's hands, but he just stood there and just tapped him while another teammate was pulling him down. I think, in my opinion, that Xavier McKinney is a problem on the defense, but what isn't a problem is rookie cornerback Deonte Banks, who finally got his first career interception, and Bobby Okereke. Those two were probably the best pickups that we could have. The one thing I will say, though, is we need to figure out, one, how to score in the red zone and keep the momentum. We had a fumble in the red zone, and then we need to figure out our punt returner, and we need to figure it out fast because Sterling Shepard, he fumbled the week before that. What was it? Eric Gray fumbled, and I'm pretty sure the week before that we had another person fumble on kick returns. We need to figure out our kick returns. Rookie Jalen Hyatt, 2 catches for 75 yards, had an absolutely beautiful and amazing catch on the sideline, toe tap, swag, drag his toe in. The only thing that is a problem to take away from that game is we only scored in the second quarter and nothing else. I mean, I get it. Washington has a decent defense, but I mean, you only score 14 points in the second quarter and you don't do anything in the third or the fourth. That really kind of puts a damper on the team and how things look. But I will say, D. Jones is supposed to be back next week. There's still talks that he might, which, I mean, Tyrod's shown that he's balling out. But we will be getting Andrew Thomas back next week, which is a godsend. We play the Jets, who are coming off a bye, so hopefully we'll be able to stop the Jets, and we'll keep the train rolling. Speaking of keeping the train rolling, we're going to keep this rolling. Falcons beat the Buccaneers 16-13. We said it Pat said it last week that he felt like whoever won this game is going to take the division. I don't think so. Yes, the Falcons came out on top, but I still think that the Buccaneers have a better chance of winning this division. The biggest reason I think that is Desmond Ridder is a problem. They had the ball 3 times in the red zone, and he fumbled it all 3 times in the red zone. There was one where he was running towards the end zone, and he just kind of had the ball out. You need to protect that ball. You saw the guy coming. Why aren't you protecting the ball on that? The other time, it was a bad snap, and instead of jumping on the ball, he kind of just kicked it around. Didn't go for it. I said it in last week's episode. If you guys were paying attention, Pat and I both agreed. It's time to bring in Heineke. I know Desmond Ridder kind of has the legs, and he's nice to run with, but it's time to bring in Taylor Heineke, in my opinion. The other thing from that game is Bijan Robinson did not play too many snaps because he had a headache. So, they didn't report it at the beginning of the game, which apparently they could be getting on blast for that, for not reporting it, because of allowing the betting odds to be in the app's favors instead of being in the bettor's favors, because of people who said, oh, Bijan will go off in this game. They didn't report that Bijan was sick and had a headache, so Bijan only had 1 carry for 3 yards. So I don't know what to take away from that. Other than that, the Buccaneers side, I mean, like we said with the fumbles and all that, Buccaneers were all over them. The defense looked amazing. Unfortunately, it came down to a last-second Young Hoku field goal. So, what are you going to do at that point? But we're going to jump into the 4 o'clock games. Another heavily ref-viewed game. Steelers beat the Rams 24-17. There was controversial calls, a lot of unsportsmanlike in that game. George Pickens really needs to learn how to calm his emotions because he's costing his team a lot. Deontay Johnson did the exact same. There was a play where there was a pass interference, and Deontay Johnson got in the cornerback's face and whispered at him, threw an unsportsman flag, penalties offset. They had to repeat 3rd down, which if that didn't happen, it was an automatic 1st down, and the Steelers were walking out with a victory. Steelers still came out with a victory, but that's because of the controversial 4th down play where the chain was past the ball, and they still called it a 1st down. Unfortunately, the Rams had no more timeouts, so they couldn't challenge the ball. Sean McVay was pissed. You could see everybody knew that it was not a 1st down, but they ended up giving it to the Steelers anyways. The other thing from that game, Rams kicker Brett Maher, which, if you recall, was the kicker for the Cowboys last year during the playoffs when they played against the Buccaneers, who missed 4 field goals and an extra point. And this game missed 2 field goals and an extra point. And unfortunately, this morning was released from the team. So, I know that Cade York's out there. He was a unbelievable kicker with the Browns last year. But this year, during preseason, he was tweeting out or Instagramming some of his highlights, and then went out to miss 2 field goals in a row and was released from the team. And the team ended up picking up Dustin Hopkins, who has done amazing for them. So, all right, that's for that game. Next up, we have the Seahawks versus the Cardinals. Seahawks come out on top, 20-10. Gino's not looking too good, if I'm being honest with you. It looked like Gino was kind of having a problem that game. Kenneth Walker, as always, was unbelievable. 26 carries, 105 yards, but he also had 2 catches for 6 yards. But the rookies had to step in because DK Metcalf was hurt. So you had Jackson Smith-Njigba with 4 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown, his first career touchdown. And then Jake Bobo with 4 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. Jake Bobo had an incredible catch on the sideline, which they were not on the sideline, in the back of the end zone, which they called incomplete, which Bobo told Pete Carroll that he knew that it was a touchdown, so Pete Carroll trusted in him, and they gave him the touchdown. On the opposite side with the Cardinals, Josh Dobbs with another rushing touchdown. Josh Dobbs, I think, has had a rushing touchdown in almost every single game. Then they had the rookie Amari Dermacado. I don't know if I said that right. He had 13 carries, 58 yards. I guess they're trying to figure out which running back they want to use while James Conner's out, because Keontae Ingram was the one last week. But then there is talks that the Cowboys asked the Cardinals what they would want for Zach Ertz, which, I mean, if I'm the Cardinals, I move on from Zach Ertz. He's kind of up there in age. He's hurt. Trey McBride's a rookie last year, and he was looking really good for you guys. He was like somebody that they talked about nonstop in Hard Knocks last year. So, I'd hate to see him go to Dallas because, Dallas is a rival with the Giants. But, we had said multiple times in the past 2-3 weeks, Dallas needs to get a tight end. Whether they go for Zach Ertz, I'd say they could go for Dawson Knox still, but Dawson Knox is now hurt. So I don't think you want to try and trade for somebody who's going to be hurt. But I don't know. I still think that the Cowboys should try and go for somebody like Hunter Henry. The Patriots could use some help, whether it's draft picks or like another receiver or something. I mean, if the Cardinals want to give up Zach Ertz, I'm asking for like Michael Gallup or something. I don't think you would get Brandon Cook since they just got him and like gave him a good contract. But I'd probably ask for like Michael Gallup and like a 3rd or a 4th round pick if they want Zach Ertz. Give them Zach Ertz in a 5th round and you get Michael Gallup in like a 3rd round. I think that'd be a good trade to help the Cardinals out there. On to the Broncos versus the Packers. Broncos country, let's ride. You get another win, 19-17. After the game, Coach Sean Payton said that he should be happy with the win, but he can't find a reason to be happy. And he doesn't know why. Well, I could probably tell you why. Because that game, you guys were terrible and had to get 12 points from field goals. I think the only reason you won is because you played the Packers, and Jordan Love looks terrible now. The first 2 games, Jordan Love was looking real good. And then these last 4 games, Jordan Love has looked terrible. I think Jordan Love has way too many interceptions. He doesn't have a team to help him out. Aaron Jones is constantly injured with Green Bay, and he's still trying to go out there and do stuff. A.J. Dillon was the workhorse of that game. But, you got Romeo Dobbs and Christian Watson, who I think got injured in that game. Jaden Reed. I mean, you guys got a bunch of rookies. So, the first year without Aaron Rodgers, you guys are going to be bad, in my opinion. I mean, Jordan Love never really played any snaps. Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, rookies, 1 year in the league, 2 years in the league. And what was it? Watson was injured most of the season last year. Dobbs was injured a good bit last year. I think Luke Musgraves is a rookie tight end. You don't have Robert Tonyan anymore. So I think for being in the game 17-19, you guys still tried. But, I wouldn't get down on yourself if you're a Green Bay Packer fan. I wouldn't get down because, it's a young team. You guys are still learning. You're working on it. You're going to get there. I mean, you might not be Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre there, but you guys are going to turn things around. You just got to wait for these guys to develop. The other thing from that game is Kareem Jackson got ejected for a dirty hit, which there was no way that was a dirty hit. He let in. He hit the guy in the shoulder. The guy brought his helmet down. That was all on the receiver. It was not on Kareem Jackson. Suspended 4 games, which I think unwrongfully he got suspended. But, it is what it is. He can appeal, but I don't think he'll get it. So next up, we have the Chiefs over top of the Chargers, 31-17. Chargers are now 2-4. So things are looking kind of sketchy with the Chargers. I'm glad I didn't pick them as my Super Bowl pick this year. Chiefs, I mean, what could you say? When the Chiefs play the Chargers, Travis Kelce is just unstoppable. They said that they were going to have to cover him, and nobody covered him. On the opposite side, though, Joshua Palmer stepping in for the injured Mike Evans. Palmer got 5 catches, 133 yards. Keenan Allen had an okay day, 4 catches, 55 yards. The real thing was Austin Eckler was doing nothing. 14 carries, 45 yards. that really hurt him. And what also really hurt was Justin Herbert, 17 for 30, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and sacked 5 times. But on the opposite side, you have Patrick Mahomes, who went off. He was 32 for 42, 424 yards, and 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, what can you say about Patrick Mahomes? The guy just absolutely destroys most of the time. At the end of the game, there was a nice screen pass to Isaiah Pacheco that gave, I think, Mahomes like his 300th touchdown or something like that. Mahomes and Kelsey have now hooked up for 50 touchdowns, just the two of them. So that's really all I have from that game. I mean, the Chiefs now definitely look like the sole #1 seed. So, I mean, you can argue for the next game that I'm about to talk about. The Eagles on top, 31-17 against the Dolphins. Exact same score as what the Chiefs had. The only difference is the Eagles had helps from the ref. I know I try not to be biased towards other teams or anything like that, especially, teams in my division. But the Eagles definitely had a lot of help from the refs. There's at least 4 or 5 blown missed calls. There's that face mask on Cedric Wilson that they just never call, which costed the Dolphins to turn the ball over. I mean, they got a pick six the very next play. So, I mean, that helped. But, Jalen Waddle went down. I think he came back in that game. But, the Dolphins could not run, which it's surprising with how bad Raheem Mostert has been with running lately. Bad as in a good way. Eagles also couldn't really get the run game going. The other thing, I think Jalen Hurts is getting carried by that team. I hate to say that because of how he was last year, but an interception, a fumble loss last week. He had those 3 interceptions and looked terrible. DeAndre Swift, 15 carries, 62 yards. Hurts, 11 carries, 21 yards. I mean, there's a lot of carries because they ran the push-tush, brotherly shove 4 times. So, of course, you're going to get 1-2 yards out of that. But on the opposite side, you had Tua, 23 for 32, 216 yards, a touchdown. But Raheem Mostert, 9 carries, 45 yards. He couldn't get anything done. Tyreek, on the other hand, 11 catches, 88 yards, and a touchdown. I think Tyreek is just under 100 yards until he hits 1,000, which they play the Patriots, and the Patriots have a dinged-up secondary. So I think next week Tyreek can definitely break the 1,000-yard mark. And if he does that in 7 games, the next 7 games takes him up to week 15 because he'll have a bye in between that. He's already at 2,000, and he still would have 2 more games to play. So I definitely think that this is looking like Tyreek could break the record this year. But on the other note from that, the Eagles actually traded the man who had the most tackles in that game. Terrell Edmonds had 8 tackles in that game. And they are trading Terrell Edmonds, a 5th round and a 6th round, to the Titans for Kevin Byard. I want to know how the Eagles keep finessing these trades. They also got Julio Jones from the free agency. Julio Jones only had 2 catches for 4 or 5 yards. But, I mean, the guy was signed on Tuesday. He had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to learn the playbook. So I wasn't expecting Julio Jones to do something really big that game, but just, look out in the future because Julio Jones probably will end up doing something big. But I will say A.J. Brown, I think, just set a record for most consecutive games with over 125 yards. He had 10 catches, 137 yards, and a touchdown. So, I mean, congrats to A.J. Brown, and the Titans are dumb for getting rid of him. That's all I can say. So, all right, now that since it is Tuesday when I'm recording this, I can actually bring in the Monday Night Football game. The Vikings on top of the 49ers, 22-17. Brock Purdy's finally looking like he's not going to be that good. Brock Purdy had 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 272 yards. I mean, without Debo, it kind of hurt him. Without Trent Williams, it kind of hurt him. It definitely hurt in the run game. McCaffrey, 15 carries for only 45 yards. But on the other hand, TJ Hawkinson, 11 catches for 86 yards. That's, I think they said his career best. His career best was 85 yards in a game, and he did that on 8 catches. But in this one, he had 11 catches for 86 yards. And the rookie receiver stepping up for the absence of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, 7 catches, 123 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of those was an interception that he just ripped out of Charvarius Ward's hands, or is it? Yeah, Charvarius Ward. Ripped it right out of Charvarius Ward's hands and just ran it into the end zone. I think when Justin Jefferson comes back, Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson are going to be one killer combo that most teams aren't going to want to mess with. You know, if they would have kept Adam Thielen, it would have been a crazy 3-piece team there. But, you know, I get the whole Adam Thielen contract disputes and all that. But, I mean, Adam Thielen's killing it in Carolina, so you can't blame him for that. On the other hand, I mean, another rush game that was kind of bad. Madison, 8 carries, 39 yards. Akers, 10 carries, 31 yards. You know, they still can't figure out their run game. But, I mean, you also were playing the San Francisco 49ers defense, so I kind of understand that. On the other hand, Kirk Cousins did finally get a primetime win. You know, Kirk Cousins is always being bashed for not being able to win in primetime, and he comes out on top on one of the top 3 teams of the league this year. So, you know, you could probably say if Debo and Trent Williams were in there, they would come out on top, but, you know, that's a shoulda, woulda, coulda. I am going to go ahead and give you my early Thursday night prediction. You know, it'll pop up on our Facebook like it always does. But Buccaneers versus Bills this Thursday. I think the Bills get the bounce back, and I think the Bills are on top of the Buccaneers. I'm even going to throw out a score prediction. I'm going to say Bills 27, Buccaneers 13. So, with that being said, before we end this episode, we got one segment to do for you guys. So I'll let myself take it away.
Have a day.
That's right, everybody. Here we are with another episode of Have a Day with Tim. So, of course, we got 3 nominees. I have an honorable mention. Jordan Addison, you are an honorable mention. Like I said, 7 catches, 123 yards, 2 touchdowns. You look incredible, and you stepped up for the absence of Justin Jefferson. But my 3 nominees for this week's Have a Day is Donta Foreman, who had a career game with 16 carries, 89 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches, 31 yards, and a touchdown. You know, it was against the Raiders, who have a pretty bad defense, but, you know, Donta Foreman, who had to step up for the injured Roschon Johnson and the injured Khalil Herbert. They weren't sure if it was going to be him or Travis Homer who was in the backfield. Homer then also was hurt during the week. So, Donta Foreman, great career game that you had with the help from your rookie quarterback, Tyson Bagent. At my second nominee, I have Myles Garrett. I know, crazy that it's a defensive player, but let me just tell you, Myles Garrett had 9 tackles, 7 of them were solo. He had 2 sacks, 2 fumbles, which one of those fumbles led to a recovery in the end zone, giving the Browns a touchdown. He had 1 blocked field goal. So, I mean, the man was just unstoppable against the Colts. In the blocked field goal, he completely jumped over the lineman, cleared it, and blocked the field goal. And, of course, his team came out on top. And in my third nomination, I have Travis Kelce. That's right, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. 12 catches, 179 yards, and 1 touchdown. You know, I said it earlier that the Chargers cannot defend against Travis Kelce when they play, no matter what. But all I got to say is, Myles Garrett, have a day. There you are, ladies and gentlemen. That is week 7 in the books. I'd say that I'd throw it to Tank to do the closing, but he can't. So that means follow us on the X. Go ahead and follow us on Spotify and Apple Music. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We don't post as much on TikTok, but we're still there. We don't post as much on Instagram, but we're still there. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and comment on our YouTube. This Friday, Tank will be dropping his Tank's thoughts. I honestly couldn't tell you what he's doing. He hasn't told us yet. And then this Sunday will be another episode of Testing Tim's Knowledge. Last Sunday, we did my co-host's favorite offensive players. So we're going to flip the script, and we're going to do my co-host's favorite defensive players. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And I will see you guys next week. Hopefully, Pat and Tank will be here. Peace.